and hopefully one of many firsts for our new council. It's a direction that I personally take take to heart in dealing with the other levels of government and stuff. Both MPLs, and both of our MLAs in Cumberland County, McCrossan and my good friend Tori Rushton. And I want to build relationships and build things up, and everybody has to be at the table if we're going to get some projects started and get some other stuff completed. And so I reached out to Stephen and said, listen, I'd love to have you come to council, and we'd like to set up a regular schedule. And I hope to be able to do the same with the two MLAs and have them in at least a couple of times a year, so we can update what's going on and update what programs and funding possibilities might be available to us. It's like I said yesterday to Stephen, we're all in this together, so we might, it's all about building the team.
Well, and you're right. We are all in this together. It was interesting to see the conversation take the shape it did when you begin to realize that we have those three levels of government with three different sets of responsibility, but the lines are very badly blurred. And we see, provincial campaign recently talked about the carbon tax, which was a federal thing. And we keep doing that. We keep mixing, if you will, and maybe sometimes using to personal advantage of something that's not yours to use. But the three levels of government overlap and intersect, and each one dependent on the other to a certain extent. And you made that point very, very clear when you talked about upcoming infrastructure projects that might cost a big bag full of money, and you kind of hinted to Stephen Ellis that you might be looking for federal support down the road. I think that's a given. Of course, he's hoping that he's in a better position when you come asking than he is right now.
Oh, absolutely, but listen, it's been, you have to have a list of things you want to get done, and you have to find ways forward. It was kind of funny yesterday when all the rest of the presenters were sitting there and Stephen was up first, and I said, it's really funny how the ball rolls around here, Here we are as a council talking to you and asking for support for federal funding, and everybody else that's coming behind you is going to be asking us as a council for support. So I said it's one of those money days where it trickles down from the top to the bottom. And anyway, he thought that was quite interesting. So.
Yeah, I thought you were stirring the pot nicely on that one. And speaking of the other presenters, Oxford Community Centre came asking for money, as you pointed out. You expected that. And some people might think that's odd. So let's save them for last and talk about the ones who came before, because they kind of, perhaps unknowingly, set the stage for recognizing how it's actually logical for Oxford to come asking. And the reason I say that, of course, is that there are many things today that go beyond the town boundaries, many things today that go beyond your municipal boundaries. Now, for example, the Cumberland County Transportation Society, busing and taxi-style service throughout the county, getting bigger, getting more important and more necessary as we go. And they presented a picture of an organization that some people think is Amherst-centric, when in fact it's all the more reason to look at county-wide.
Absolutely, it's a great organization. They do great work in the community. One of the going forward things with them has been the repercussions or unintended after effects of the remedy and what's going on there with with all of our community groups that are involved in that, and the increased need for the Transportation Society will come partially from that too, because we're going to put all of those, for example, the residents from Pugwash out into the communities, and they're going to need transportation, and it's interesting that, how much stress is it going to put on the Cumberland County Transportation Society, or added stress or added cost, which is the same thing. How much is it going to impact those folks, and how much, more funding perhaps will they need going down the road for that?
Now, you used a term there, the remedy, and a lot of people won't know what you mean by that. You're talking, of course, about Sunset Communities changing from the large institutional care to more community-based small home care. And that's happening not just at Sunset, but right across the province. If anything, Sunset seems to be leading the parade, moving out faster. So what is the remedy?
Well, the remedy is exactly an acronym or whatever that they've attached to this to solve the longstanding problem of having people institutionalized in the province of Nova Scotia. There's, I think, 7 or 8 large institutions such as Sunset across the province, and all of them will be closed over the next period of time. And all of the residents will be put out into the communities and moved out into the communities in various forms. So yeah, and back to your point about Sunset, yes, Julie Hoig and Chair Jen Hotelling of the committee there, and all the people who do the great work on that, have really been out front on this, leading the way with there's Sunset Landing project in Pugwash. They've been advocating now that we will need increased mobility and increased accessibility, in the village of Pugwash. So there's a push to get sidewalks and installed in Pugwash, and all of this leads out from the remedy.
Now, moving on to the next one, talk about county-wide once again. The Cumberland Chamber of Commerce made a pitch to you, and it wasn't that long ago when the Cumberland Chamber of Commerce did not exist. In fact, we had instead the Parsboro Board of Trade, been around for a very long time. Board of Trade was the initial name, by the way. The Chamber of Commerce became more popular, but there were holdouts to the Board of Trade, including Parsboro, Halifax as well. And then, of course, you had the Amherst Chamber of Commerce, the Pugwash Chamber of Commerce. I think there was a Spring Hill as well. They have all become one, like we're talking about here on other things. And their presentation showed us once again that you really have to think beyond your county lines.
Absolutely. They're just finishing up the last pieces of that to get the county-wide Chamber of Commerce complete. And and Chair Keith Thompson has done tremendous work all around the county, facilitating that. Beth Peterkin has helped out a lot too, to get this thing pulled together. It's been a lot of work because there's a lot of obviously paperwork and all of that to go along with that process. But the other thing is that they do some great work in the county, advocating on behalf of business, advocating various projects. One of the great events that they just did recently was the awards gala at Northumberland Links in Pugwash there in before Christmas. Absolutely fantastic venue, fantastic program. And the other thing is that one of the things we talked about, and I said to them yesterday, you guys are what we call the knot tires around Cumberland County for all the various groups and communities and whatever, and the businesses, because when we were there in Pugwash that night, we were watching businesses from Parsboro, shake hands and intermingle and discuss projects with businesses from Spring Hill and Spring Hill to Pugwash and Pugwash to Parsboro. And you know what? Those kinds of networking events and tie-in events that the Chamber does are absolutely critical to the fabric of our community, our business community in Cumberland County.
Now, that leads us to the last one. The last presentation was from a group that's spearheaded the Oxford Community Centre, the new Oxford Community Centre, a phenomenal piece of work, a $24.5 million facility. It's really quite remarkable that they've come to that, and I think the presenter even said that had they understood when they started that it would end up as $24.5 million, they probably wouldn't have even started. It would have been such a scary figure. But they came to you ostensibly to ask for financial help for the project. And I know there are a bunch of people thinking that they must have or should have had their head examined to think that they would go into your council and ask for that kind of money for something in their community. But as we've just described with the presentation from the Member of Parliament, the County Transportation Society, the Chamber of Commerce, these these lines, these town lines, boundary lines, and so on, they are not just blurred anymore, but as I have often said, we are one big community. And I got the very strong sense, and I'm very glad of it and thankful for you and your council. I got the very strong sense that you did not think for 1 second that it was silly of them to ask for help, because I think you can see that, once again, we're all in it together, are we not?
Oh, absolutely, and I've been saying this all along, right from day one. What's good for Spring Hill is good for Oxford, is good for Parsboro, is good for Pugwash, and good for everyone. And like the reality of that facility is that probably 60% of the users will actually be residents of Cumberland County, and we've based that on other things and programs like the Oxford Seniors Club, for example. A large percentage of their membership comes from county, outside the town of Oxford and all of that. But the other thing, at the end of the day, after I, certainly thank those guys, and listen, it's been a long road for them with COVID and the huge increase in costs. I mean, they are many millions past where they thought they would be originally, and most of it due to the price increases from COVID. But the other thing too is that you have to look at, first of all, the amount of work that committee's put into that, the contributions and all the stuff that the Bragg family continues, to do in the county of Cumberland on a daily basis. And you know what? They're the same mindset. What's good for Oxford is good for everybody. What's good for them is good for everybody too. And at the end of the day, that's the mindset that we have to have. This facility will contribute to the mental health, emotional well-being, and all of that for many of the county residents as much as the town of Oxford.
And I agree, as you know. But there'll be somebody out there thinking that, you send me a tax bill for the services I have in Cumberland, and some of that tax money now is going to Oxford. There'll be somebody who doesn't like it. But at the same time, you and I both know. For example, here at the Hope Center, we have a group of fiddlers that get together a couple of times a month here in the community room. There's one from Tidnish, one from Wallace, one from Spring Hill, one from Amherst, coming to Pugwash, to the Hope Center. There's a whole group of people learning how to quilt going on right now as we speak in the community room, and they come from all around. In terms of people from Pugwash, there might be one, maybe two, but for the most part, they're coming from everywhere else. We are a mobile community today. We will travel to do the things we want to do and learn the things we want to learn. And the county line that was drawn by man for the town of Amherst, the town of Oxford, and of course the lines where they intersect with the municipality of Cumberland, those lines don't mean anything to us as a true community. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And a good example of that is our ever popular wild game supper in Tidnish last Saturday night.
Wow, and yeah, big time.
If you broke down the people, then there were people there from every corner of the county, really, and parts of New Brunswick, and there were a couple from PEI. There were people from HRM and everywhere. And that proves two things: A, that everybody is much more mobile than they perhaps were at the beginning of time, so to speak, obviously. But the other thing too is that when you look at where do your dollars come from, from a community run operation, they come from everywhere, and so that's how it works.
And of course, a lot of money has come from the provincial government for that facility, in the same way that you gathered a lot of provincial money to do all of the work, infrastructure work that you did in Spring Hill, for example. So, I mean, somebody in Yarmouth or Sydney can say, well, why is my tax money going there? Why? Because we do it collectively. That's why.
Yep, exactly. And that's how it works. And at the end of the day, you can't lose focus on the goal and the common good, and that's what we focus on. Myself and the council and our senior management team, we focus on the common good. What's good for the people, and that's our focus every day.
Now, the last couple of times we talked, we found out that you were on the road, and that's kind of what you do all the time. And I normally open with, where are you today? Let's close with that. You're like, what's his name, the traveling guy, I've been everywhere, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, this morning I'm sitting at the brand new fire hall in Spring Hill. I just moved. I had to move out of the parking lot a bit. I was going to sit in there, but I had to get out of the way. There's so many workers here this morning, buzzing around trying to get this thing finished, and it's a beautiful morning to sit up here. And I had not realized until I was sitting here how far I can see across Cumberland County from up on top of this hill. And my next stop in the next few minutes will be to roundtable on harm reduction that's being put on here in Spring Hill today. So I'll scoot down the hill and join up with that. I think that starts here in about 2 minutes.